6 squads punched Atlantic City bids while 2 teams will officially miss Monopoly City. Valentine's Day furthered our love for the MAAC with countless important and intense contests, and we even saw the top 2 seeds square off. Injuries and upsets threw a wrench into the postseason outlook, and the possible Player of the Year added another award to her trophy case. Actually, 2 of them. Will the committee surprise us with the Rookie of the Year? We'll recap it all on the inaugural episode of Women's Wednesday right here on MAAC Mania. Mike Duda and JJ Garcia with you. And as always, JJ, let's kick things off with the standings.
We got to do it. There are 2 teams tied in first. You mentioned it. They faced off earlier. The Fairfield Stags and Quinnipiac Bobcats, both at 16-1. Fairfield is on a 5-game winning streak, while Quinnipiac has lost their last game against Fairfield.
We'll get into it. That snapped a 16-game winning streak for the Bobcats. They had won every single game in MAAC play. However, they still hold the tiebreaker and will, assuming that they win out the remaining 3 games of the year, regardless of what the Stags do, because they hold the tiebreaker by beating Merrimack twice. Though Fairfield still has a 100% winning percentage against the Warriors at 1-0, there are more wins for the Bobcats at 2-0, and thus they have that tiebreaker over the Stags. And speaking of Merrimack, they're coming in third.
Yeah, they're in third place right now. They're sitting at 12-4 in conference play. They're 3.5 games back of Quinnipiac and Fairfield. Most likely won't catch up to them, but they are on a 4-game win streak with a overtime thriller against Marist, which we'll highlight a little later. And let me also say that 6 teams so far have clinched the MAAC tournament so far, and the team in 4th is Sacred Heart Pioneers. Obviously, we're high on the men's team, but this women's team is also very good.
We'll talk about this. I am not that high on them. I don't think that. I think they're very talented, but I think they win way too many close games for me to really be decisive on them being a perennial threat and a perennial contender. Though with the rest of the MAAC slate, I could definitely see them making the semifinals game. Again, most of it, for the most part, you can say doesn't really matter because in all likelihood it will be Quinnipiac and Fairfield. But again, anything is possible in Atlantic City. And I think Sacred Heart definitely has a legitimate shot to make those semifinals. Yeah,
they're sitting at 10-6. They're 5.5 games back, obviously. That really doesn't matter too much right now.
The only thing that matters is Merrimack in terms of the games back of first place. They are the only ones mathematically with a shot of keeping up with Quinnipiac and Fairfield to win the regular season bid. But again, in all likelihood, they won't. And seeding doesn't necessarily matter. In fact, we talked about this on MAAC Men's Monday. We actually think that if you get a 3 to 6 seed, it could be better than 1 or 2, especially if there's no big threat. Now, with the women's, it's a little bit different because there are the big threats in Quinnipiac and Fairfield. But if you get a 3 to a 6 seed, you know who you're playing in advance. If you get a 1 or a 2, it's contingent upon the 7 and 10 game and the 8 and 9 game. And again, those seeds also don't know who they're going to play the round after. 3 through 6, you already are in the quarterfinals and you know who you're going to play, which is 5 extra days of scouting. It's 5 extra days of practice, knowing their sets, everything like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It's not you have to focus on 2 teams, wait to see who wins.
Right.
You just got to focus on 1 team, mostly 5 key players, and that's really it. It's a lot easier to do that knowing the 3 through 6. So Merrimack sitting in a really good position right now, speaking of that.
I would agree.
But sitting in 5th place, it's the Siena Saints. They're sitting at 9-7 in conference play. They're on a 2-game skid so far, but they're trying to pick it back up. They'll have a few games coming down the stretch that are going to be very important. Again, we'll focus on that a little later.
There's a big storyline there. We'll leave you in suspense, though.
Exactly. Sitting in 6th place, the last team to clinch MAAC playoff berth. It's the Iona Gales sitting at 9-8. They're on a 2-game win streak. They've been playing great basketball. Again, they are the last team to clinch playoffs so far, and we'll get into clinching scenarios right after this section, actually. But sitting in 7th place, it's the Mount St. Mary's. They are 8-8, 7.5 games back. Again, 1-game losing streak. Not too much to worry about for them. They're still fighting for a spot, but they are very close to clinching the playoffs.
What matters is the top 6, and they are half a game out of the top 6. And when we get to those clinching scenarios in just a second, it's very easy for them out to clinch a playoff berth. In fact, much easier than the remaining 3 teams that are currently slotted for a postseason spot. And again, we'll talk this a lot during our games. Valentine's Day was crazy, leaving the 11 seed with a legitimate shot right now, at least in my eyes, but we'll get there in just a sec. after JJ talks about the Jaspers.
Yeah, Manhattan sitting in 8th place at 7-9 in conference play. They are on a 2-game win streak. They've been playing great basketball when it's really needed for them to do that, and they're getting very close to clinching the playoffs as well.
0 non-conference wins. They're still going to most likely make the playoffs, which is impressive, I think.
It's like we always say, all that matters is MAAC basketball.
That's what matters. That's why you can play the toughest competition. It's why Marist played number 5 LSU. Did they lose by quite the large amount? Yeah. But did they better themselves by playing such high-level basketball? I think yes.
100%, and that's the big thing is it's conference play that matters. You could do whatever you want the first few games of the season, play whoever you want because playing against higher competition will get you ready for MAAC tournament, which is what the end goal is.
Look at that segue. Look who's next on the standings if it isn't Aaron Dowdy's squad.
It's the Marist Red Foxes sitting at 7-10 in conference play. They are on a 2-game losing streak. They've been dealing with some injuries again. We'll highlight that a little later. We are students from Marist once again, so we might have
got to get our biases out of the way. We are trying our best to be non-biased here, though we are students at Marist, and we do cover Marist the most.
Yes, so we'll try to keep that out of it. But right now, Marist sitting in 9th place, 7-10. They're coming off a very rough loss, which again, we'll highlight that a little later. In 10th place, it's the St. Peter's Peacocks. They are sitting at 6-10 in conference play. They are on a 1-game losing streak. Right behind them, Duda highlighted it a little bit earlier, it's the Rider Bronx sitting at 4-12, and there is a chance they could sneak their way into the MAAC tournament. A lot has to go right for them, but there's a chance.
Very possible, and we'll take a look at it when we look at the upcoming week's slate and when we look at the storylines in a separate segment. So stay tuned for that for those of you that are watching on YouTube. For those that are watching on Substack and Spotify, stay tuned. Just listen. You don't even have to hit pause. It's a 1-segment thing.
It's very awesome that we're doing this. I'm very thankful for Duda to let me join in on this. And
thankful for my co-host, JJ.
It's MAAC Mania.
It is MAAC Mania.
How can you not love it?
But not for the Buffalo squads, unfortunately.
Sadly not. Sitting at 12th and 13th place, it's the Canisius Golden Griffs at 2-14. And then the Niagara Purple Eagles, they are 0-16 on a 25-game losing streak. It's been rough.
It has. They haven't won a non-exhibition game since the close of last season. We'll talk that more again when we talk about the storylines. But for Canisius, you may say, oh, they're only 4 games out with 4 to play. They're technically still alive. They are not, because when they played St. Peter's the one and only time, they ended up losing that matchup. Therefore, Canisius officially cannot make the postseason. And Niagara, it's been over for a couple of games. But let's turn that into our clinching scenarios. And by the way, for Canisius, those only 2 conference wins did come against Niagara. So the Buffalo schools, when not playing each other, haven't won a conference game.
But another thing is that these 2 Buffalo schools, they can still break some of these teams' hearts. They could push Rider into the playoffs. They could still win some games.
Break Rider's heart.
They could break Rider's heart.
They could break the Bronx, JJ. And I'm not talking about the Borough. I'm talking about the Rider Bronx. Well, let's segue that into the Mountaineers of Mount St. Mary's. Very simple playoff scenario for them. Win or a Rider loss. Currently, they have the tiebreaker, but the 2 play each other, that being the Mount and Rider, later on this season, that being on the 28th of February, the last day of the season. They are the only team that can clinch this upcoming Thursday on the 19th of February. Manhattan, Marist, and St. Peter's, they need 3 of the following to happen total over the remainder of the season. A win or a Rider loss. So any 3 of those, let's say Manhattan wins 3 games in a row, they're in. Let's say Rider loses 3 games, St. Peter's is in. It's the same for all 3 of those teams. But Rider, I don't know. They're playing the Buffalo schools coming up. Stay tuned for that. JJ, tell me about the top 6 a little bit.
Yeah, the top 6, Quinnipiac, Fairfield, Merrimack, have clinched along with Sacred Heart, Siena, and Iona. Those 6 schools have clinched so far, and they are in the playoffs, which is huge for them. There's really no other possibilities for teams clinching or missing out this week, unless, obviously, it's Rider. But again, those top 6 have clinched. They clinched pretty early on, and they're sitting in a really good position heading into the MAAC tournament.
Iona clinching most recently on Valentine's Day, Siena and Sacred Heart the set of games before, that being on that Thursday. No other possibilities for a top 6 seed. Stay tuned for our second segment for the games of last week.